Lord, fill my mouth with useful stuff, and shut it when I've said enough. Amen. Please be seated. Some of you may recall that many years ago I was in prison. As a chaplain, I hasten to add. And so here's a story. An old Italian man lived alone in the country. He wanted to dig his tomato garden, but it was very hard work as the ground was hard. His only son, Vincent, who used to help him, was in prison. The old man wrote a letter to his son and described his predicament. Dear Vincent, I'm feeling pretty bad because it looks to me like I won't be able to plant my tomato garden this year. I'm just getting too old to be digging up a garden plot. I know if you were here, my troubles would be over. I know you would be happy to dig the plot for me. Love, Dad. A few days later, he received a letter from his son. Dear Dad, don't dig up that garden. That's where I buried the bodies. Love, Vinny. At 4 a.m. the next morning, FBI agents and local police arrived and dug up the entire area without finding any bodies. They apologized to the old man and they left. And that same day, the old man received another letter from his son. Dear Dad, go ahead and plant the tomatoes now. That's the best I could do under the circumstances. Love you, Vinny. Marvellous. Some years ago, my wife and I were holidaying on the island of Tenerife. I don't know if you've ever been there, but on the northeast side, it's very hilly and mountainous. And we took a day's coach tour with the driver going up through the mountains and through all the forests and so on. And it was hairpin bends, quite a bit of it. And I was sat right at the front with the driver just there, and we're going... I was terrified. I started praying, and eventually it dawned on me that though I can't trust my own feelings, because I was very... that the driver can be trusted. So our heavenly driver can be trusted whatever happens in your life or mine. So we can say, good morning, God lets. God's presence inside us and in our world is rarely dramatic, overwhelming, or sensational, rarely something impossible to ignore, because, friends, God doesn't work like that. Rather, God's presence, much to our frustration and loss of patience sometimes, is something that lies quiet, seemingly helpless inside us. It rarely makes a splash. Jesus' teaching about God's presence in our lives makes clear that this presence is mostly quiet and hidden. A plant growing silently as we sleep, yeast leavening dough in a manner hidden from our eyes, summer slowly turning a barren tree green, an insignificant mustard plant eventually surprising us with its growth, a man or woman forgiving an enemy. God, it seems, works in ways that are quiet and hidden from our eyes. The God that Jesus incarnates is neither dramatic nor splashy. And there's an important faith lesson in this. Putting it simply, God lies inside of us, deep inside, but in a way that's almost non-existent, almost unfelt, largely unnoticed and easily ignored. However, while that presence is never overpowering, it has within it a gentle, unremitting imperative, a compulsion towards something higher, which invites us to draw upon it. And if we do draw upon it, it gushes up into an infinite stream that instructs us, nurtures us, and fills us with endless energy. This is important for understanding faith. God lies inside of us as an invitation that fully respects our freedom, never overpowers us, but also never goes away. It lies there precisely like a baby lying helpless in the straw, gently beckoning us, but helpless in itself to make us pick it up. My wife, Barbara, bless her, was only saying at breakfast, because she's a great one for gardening, and it's the time of year for getting out in the garden. She says she finds God in all of nature. She finds God in everything. The author C.S. Lewis, Tales of Narnia and so on, in explaining why he finally became, in his own words, the most reluctant convert in the history of Christendom, writes that for years he was able to effectively ignore a voice inside him, precisely because it was almost non-existent, almost unfelt, largely unnoticed. And on the other hand, in retrospect, he realized it had always been there, a gentle, incessant nudge, beckoning him to draw from it, something he eventually recognized as a gentle but unyielding imperative, a compulsion which, if obeyed, leads to liberation. Another well-known author of Christian spirituality, Ruth Burrows, the British Carmelite nun and mystic, describes a similar experience in her autobiography titled Before the Living God. Chronicling her late adolescent years, Burrows describes both her religious flightiness and her lack of attraction to the religious life at that time in her life. Yet she eventually ends up not only becoming serious about religion, but becoming a Carmelite nun. I don't know how much you know about orders of nuns and so on, but Carmelites are the strictest of the strictest. So they'd be like the SAS troops of convents, if you like. What happened to her? One day in a chapel, almost against her will and triggered by a series of accidental circumstances, she opened herself to a voice inside her that she had until then mainly ignored, because it lay inside her precisely as a voice that was almost non-existent, almost unfelt, so largely unnoticed. But once touched, it too gushed up as the deepest and the most real thing inside her, and set the direction of her life forever after. Like C.S. Lewis, she too, once she had opened herself to it, felt it as an unyielding moral compulsion that opened her to ultimate liberation. Why doesn't God show himself to us more directly, more powerfully, so as to make faith easier? The answer lies in understanding the manner in which God manifests himself in our lives and in our world. Because he surely does. Unlike most everything else that's trying to get our attention, God never tries to overwhelm us. God, more than anyone else, respects our freedom. And for this reason, God lies everywhere, inside us and around us, almost unfelt, largely unnoticed, easily ignored. A quiet, gentle nudge. But, if drawn upon, the ultimate stream of love and energy.